Hello. Oh, well, let me make sure. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? I'm having a little audio issue here. Okay, starting to come around. All right. Good, I see Sue. There she is. All right. We'll just give a few more minutes, let everybody get in. One person is waiting.
Helping with that, but the beaches here are just open for running and walking, but they could be open for sunbathing on Memorial Day.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Excellent, excellent. I think I had a list of 16 and I see 19 participants, so I'll say that's good. We'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this Planet Sarasota Financial Aid webinar. I'm just going to make just one quick announcement. This is going to be recorded for educational purposes. It's going to be posted on our Having a Plan website so that we can use it for educational purposes on people. Some of the advice that's given out today will be used to help people to set up other things. So with that said, I am going to hand it over to our moderator, Sue Wetzel, the president of United Way, Sarasota.
Thank you, Thomas, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this discussion. We're delighted this evening to host a really well-informed and very, very helpful panel of presenters or speakers to answer some questions and offer information with respect to FAFSA and the applications and the current status of things at the moment. What we really hope to be able to do is to impart the relevance and importance of the FAFSA process to students and their families. We want to be able to answer any of the questions that you might have with respect to the process and how adaptations to it may be getting made as a result of our current environment. And we want to make sure we have a great opportunity here to share with you what we understand to be the case in local universities and what we might be seeing as national trends as well, and answer as many of your questions as possible. So with that, let me introduce the folks that have been kind enough to join the panel discussion and help answer those questions here this evening. First, we have Andrea LaChapelle, who's the Director of Financial Aid at the State College of Florida. We have Stephanie Sees, who is the Recruitment and New Student Specialist at the State College of Florida. And we also have Gabriela Vega, who is the Assistant Director from the Office of Financial Aid for USF. So we're delighted to have these three individuals able to share with us their understanding of the process, where things stand at the moment, and answer any of your questions. So let me first turn it over to you, Andrea, to introduce yourself and offer any insights, or we can just have the three of you introduce yourselves and we can start from there. Either way.
Okay. My name is Andrea LaChapelle. I'm the Director of Financial Aid at the State College of Florida. I have been there for about 2 years. And basically the message that I'd like to get across to students and parents this evening, it is definitely not too late to go ahead and submit an application for financial aid. Do not worry about what your income taxes are going to be listed on there. Work with your financial aid offices. We have some tricks up our sleeves to be able to help you navigate this pandemic time. There are different things we can do to help accommodate you and help make your education affordable for your child.
Great. Stephanie, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name is Stephanie C. I've been at the State College of Florida in recruitment for about a year now. And I work with students in the Sarasota County high schools as well as some in Charlotte County, just kind of getting familiar with SCF, what resources we have, and the degrees that we offer. And if you have any sort of financial aid questions, I can definitely try to answer those as best as I can. Or, you know, as Andrea says, they have a really great team over there, so they're always willing to help answer those if you do have any.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. And Gabriella, I see your name, but not your face, but hopefully we can hear you. So if you could introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Gabriela Vega, and I've been with USF for over 20 years in the Office of Financial Aid. I used to be, actually I started as a Federal Work Studies student in the Office of Financial Aid in Tampa, and I've been with USF ever since. Financial aid is complex, but not difficult, so we're here to assist you.
That's great. Thank you. I thought what we would do to just sort of get the ball rolling here this evening is answer sort of the most fundamental question. Andrea, maybe you can start us off here with what is FAFSA and Bright Futures? What's the difference, and what information am I going to be expected to provide to complete an application for either one or both?
Okay, so the FAFSA application is typically used as an application for federal student aid. So the federal Pell Grant program, the federal student loan program, but some institutions do use it for institutional aid that they may have or scholarship opportunities. So there's usually a misconception out there that I'm not going to qualify for financial aid, so why should I bother doing a FAFSA? I tell every student, apply, because you never know what an institution will be using that FAFSA for. Bright Futures is a separate application for state aid with the state of Florida. There are different levels to the Bright Futures program that a student can qualify for. So basically, if you're going to do the FAFSA, as soon as you're done with the FAFSA, go ahead and complete the Bright Futures application. What FAFSA is looking for, that's a little bit different than Bright Futures, is it does require, if you're doing the 2021 FAFSA, it would be 2018 federal tax returns. And the best tip I can give to anyone applying is, if you can, utilize the IRS data retrieval tool that's built in on the FAFSA, because that'll transfer your information that's used to calculate your aid in seamlessly, and it'll eliminate any typos that could happen as far as reporting your income and things. And that will generate out to, you can put up to, I believe, 10 institutions on there to share your information, so that each institution can create a financial aid package that'll work for you towards the cost of attendance there.
Sue, you're muted.
I'll be right. Before we go any further, I want to encourage you all to use the chat box. We have folks monitoring that so that we're sure not to miss any of your questions. And we want to make this as interactive and as useful for you as possible. So let me, again, just ask one other question while we wait for others to come in. Let me ask whether or not in this given environment, perhaps Stephanie, you can answer this one. Do you see that the application deadlines might be extended or changed in any way, given the current environment and a bit of the state of confusion people might be in?
So from an admissions standpoint, the applications are the same, and we're a rolling admissions application. So if you were to apply to SCF, let's say tonight, you would get your acceptance within 1 to 2 business days. And then as far as the FAFSA goes, I know a lot of students have reached out to me, as well as parents, about, you know, like Andrea was mentioning, can I still apply? Is it too late? Or are there any scholarships that are available? So it's not too late for any of that, and we're definitely encouraging students that, you know, maybe haven't solidified college plans yet to still make sure that they're doing all of that and, you know, getting all that taken care of.
Great, thank you. We did get a question in the chat box. Perhaps Gabriella, you would be interested in taking this one. The question is, How do we know if our community service hours are linked to our Bright Futures application?
So basically, and let me just say something about what Andrea said about the FAFSA versus Bright Futures. Bright Futures does not need a FAFSA. You do not need to file a FAFSA for Bright Futures alone. So if you're just thinking about applying for Bright Futures and that's the only thing that you're interested in, then you do not have to file a FAFSA. You just have to file the state of Florida application. And so the state determines the student's eligibility for Bright Futures. And so it's between the high school and the state of Florida, and they're connected because your community service hours have to be reported to your high school counselor, and your high school counselor reports that to the state of Florida. Okay, so once you submit your application, you already develop an account with the Florida Department of Education, and then your counselor at your high school will report your community service hours to them directly. So you report your hours to your high school counselors.
Does that answer the question? Any follow-on to that? Okay. What if you've already completed the application, but there's been a pretty significant change to your family's income as a result of implications from the COVID virus and or, you know, the shutdown of some businesses or other sources of income? What needs to be attended to, if anything, if there's been a dramatic change in family income?
What I would do is reach out to the financial aid office. There is something in financial aid that allows a financial aid administrator to do what's called a professional judgment. Some institutions may refer to it as a reevaluation of income. The student and the parents would just need to provide documentation to document the change, what caused the significant decrease. And right now what we're seeing a significant amount in is furloughs or losing positions, and different institutions will require different things to be turned in. But basically the 28 tax return would be required to verify that the information that was submitted on your original FAFSA was accurate. And then what would happen is, based on the documentation that's given, if the student's parents have lost their jobs, all of that would be handed into the financial aid office, and we would work a calculation based on the data change to estimate what funding, what income would be for that upcoming year from the date of the loss of employment. And that would be submitted onto the FAFSA to create a more realistic picture of what the family's income is at that time. But like I always encourage students, reach out to the individual financial aid office, because even though it is a federal program that allows us to do this, they do not dictate to the institutions exactly how to run this. So you would want to work with your financial aid office to see what their process is and what documents they require. But it is an option, especially during this time where people have lost their jobs. You don't know if you're going to be brought back to work, unemployment's going up. So there are options out there for students to work with financial aid.
Got it. Thank you. One of question that may come up as a follow-on to this is, I guess, a two-part question. One is that has been raised in our chat here is, what if I've decided as a result of all the changes that have gone on, either personally or with my family, what have you, that I just sort of I've already applied, but I need to take a gap year. I need to take a break or postpone to the fall or spring semester. What happens to my financial aid in that circumstance?
So it really depends, because financial aid is awarded by year, okay? So you have to reapply every year. So if the student is not starting in the fall and they choose to start in the spring, that is perfectly fine. How our school at USF, how we award is we award by year. So we award in the fall and we award in the spring at the same time. So if you tell us you're not, if we award you for fall and spring and you tell us you're not coming in the fall, it's okay, because you're coming in the spring and your awards will be there. So basically then if you want to take a year, then all you have to do is reapply again and submit a FAFSA. Now, FAFSA is good for 3 semesters. An academic year is fall, spring, and summer of 1920. Okay, right now we're working with 1920 and then 2021. And that covers fall of 2020, spring of 2021, and summer of 21. So if you don't intend to enter anytime during that academic year of 3 semesters, then you would have to reapply for the following year and submit a new FAFSA application.
That's very helpful to know that it covers the full academic year, all semesters. That's very, very helpful. Thank you. Tracy, you had a question regarding the change in income. This year has occurred, my family's, in my family, not as a result of COVID. I've reached out to USF where my student is going next year and have not gotten a response. Can someone tell me more specifically who to contact, either a name or an office?
So basically what happens if the student is going to, right now we're one USF, so it doesn't matter who you contact, okay? However, if you're in Tampa, you do have an assigned counselor for financial aid, and you can reach them via ServiceNow. If you're doing a change in circumstance, it doesn't matter if it has nothing to do with COVID. There's so many different circumstances where with either parents lose a job, they get laid off, they get furloughed, or they even have a reduction in income. You can approach the financial aid office at any point during that year to submit a change in circumstances, no matter if it's COVID or not. It is just, that is a regulation, and the students and each university can do a change in circumstances anytime during that specific year. To reach us, you can actually reach me. I'm actually at the Sarasota campus, so you can reach me here. Actually, I'm here now every day. We were working remotely, but now we're actually answering the phone, so I can give you my number. If you're ready, 941-359-4622.
Great. Tracy, does that provide the information that you need? I'm gonna make sure, great, okay, thank you. We also had another question around the types of scholarships that are available. I don't know if Andrew, Stephanie, or Gabrielle, which one of you want to answer that one, but I'm sure there's a lot of different scholarships.
There are a ton of scholarships that are available. It's a matter of knowing where to go and looking for them. What I usually tell students is look around. Normally the easiest answer is to go through your guidance office because they have a ton of scholarships that get dropped off to them. But right now in this situation, I would start off at the school that you've been accepted at. Some institutions will have foundation departments where private industry or donors reach out and they'll go ahead and post scholarship opportunities. You could look at church. You could look at different veterans organizations in the area. But basically what it comes down to is if you're looking online and you just type in something like scholarships, if you do your due diligence and you look at that, things like Dunkin' Donuts have scholarships, Coca-Cola have scholarships. I caution you before you submit any type of scholarship application, if it's asking for personally identifiable information like your social security number, or to ask you to make a payment to help you find the scholarships, do not proceed with that application because more than likely it is a scam. Unfortunately, we do have students that fall prey to that all of the time. So just remember, you're applying for so it really is a free resource. So if they're asking you to make a payment, you're probably not going to want to continue with that site, but you can also just do quick searches and see if they're recognized by things like the Better Business Bureau and stuff like that, just to ensure that it is a good site to be utilizing. But there are different types of scholarships. just in case I haven't answered that part, there are merit-based scholarships that would be looking to see what your high school GPA is, or community service that you've done. And then there's others that are just strict need, or they also are interested in seeing what you want to do with the funding. Why have you chosen your education? So there'll be a combination of merit, which again is your GPA, and then there would be need-based, which is where you would end up definitely having to have a FAFSA on file. And then Suzanne just posted over in the chat, definitely visit the Education Foundation's Launch Your Plan website, and the webpage is listed there.
Great. Thank you both for that answer. Another question that has come up, it's sort of in line with what we're talking about previously to this one, was not only if I wanted to postpone, if you will, starting college, or going back, what if I change schools that said, okay, I'm going to go to, I don't know, name school, University of Michigan. But now that's just not feasible for a whole host of reasons, and I need to change schools. What happens to my FAFSA application or financial aid in a circumstance where I'm not postponing, but I have to make a shift?
So let me answer that. Basically, what you want to do is, if you already have a FAFSA on file, all you need to do is go log back on the FAFSA application and make a correction to your FAFSA and add the new school that you're going to go to. You add the school, and then the federal government will download, or even the school downloads the application into their system so that they can see your eligibility and then award you. Now, financial aid does not transfer from one school to the next, so you would have to start the process again at the other school, okay? Because they might have different processes for awarding their financial aid, but they still need your FAFSA application on file.
Got it. Okay, so that's very helpful to know. You don't want to make any assumptions, right? Tracy, you've asked a follow-on question relative to Bright Futures and just making sure that hours are posted that have been accepted. Looks like Rebecca may be able to help you offline. Is that okay, or do you want to have us address that question online about just making sure you're able to post and track the hours, service hours for the Bright Futures application? Any insight on that from any of our panelists with respect to how to monitor and or check that information?
You can always call the state of Florida, because if your counselor at the high school has received community service hours and they're not showing up, you can certainly call the state to ask if they received those hours. So then the counselor would have to communicate to you, and then perhaps, I'm not sure, why it would not show up on the system, but perhaps a counselor may not submit that on a daily basis. And the reason I say that is because once a student qualifies for Bright Futures, each university that the school is going to will receive a list of eligible applicants, or they have been awarded Bright Futures. And so the schools get that information from the state. Okay, so at this point, we don't get any hours. We don't get anything. We don't get to see anything other than, here's the student that qualifies for Bright Future and she's attending your school. Okay, so the requirements that need to be met for Bright Futures have to be submitted, like I said, to the counselor, and it's between the counselor and the state. So if the student, I'm assuming, submits an application to the state, once the counselor starts submitting hours to the state, it will also be logged under the student's account, because the student is required to open up an account with the state of Florida once they submit the application for Bright Futures.
Got it. That's very helpful. Thank you. One of the things that, I don't know if you all have seen it in local media or even national media, that we're talking about, that has been sort of a topic of conversation, is the transition that many institutions are going through from in-class, on-campus experience to a virtual experience. and what the implications are relative not only to the effectiveness or quality of the education, whether or not that should be of concern, or whether or not it actually may affect the cost of tuition, because all the other ancillary services and whatnot you're not able to take advantage of them. How do you deal with a lab fee that there's no real lab going on, or what have you? Again, I'll open this up to any of our panelists to just sort of share with us maybe some of the insights that are being discussed right now in the academic institutions as to how they're going to plan to modify, if need be, formats for classes in the fall.
I can talk a little bit about that. I know from what I've heard from my admissions supervisors that there's a task force at SCF that they're assembling to try to see if they're going to be limiting class sizes, or if they're going to be doing like a blended hybrid format where it's some in person, some online. And I believe that's going to be, coming down the pipeline in June, July. So it's going to be decided, before the fall semester starts. So hopefully more to come on that, but there is a task force at SCF that's thinking about all of those things and trying to take into consideration the student safety, our faculty safety, as well as, everybody, all employees at SCF.
Got it. I guess another question in that regard might be, is there any concern around the viability of a given school, given these circumstances, that a parent or a potential student needs to be on the lookout for? What if there's some concern around whether or not the institution will be able to even function in the format that's required under these new conditions? And what do I need to be paying attention to see if there's any concern in that regard?
I guess from a standpoint, like I don't work in the academic side, but having lived through this and getting financial aid, because financial aid is so heavily regulated based on attendance and maintaining courses and having students actually be in class and being able to assess grades and things like that. You want to ensure that there was some type of a continuity plan that the institution had in place, that they were able to successfully continue their semester, and that there are plans being made and successful transitions. So much like SCF and USF and institutions like that, we're bigger institutions who were able to transition our in-class courses to an online platform relatively smoothly because we have those tools. I know from the standpoint of being in the state of Florida, one of the great things is, I don't want to say one of the great things, but a lot of things were put in place because we're coming up upon hurricane season. So that was something else that we had to start preparing for. What would happen if, like several years ago, some hurricanes hit the area? How would you continue to be able to educate the students and make sure that they didn't skip a beat in their education? So the State College of Florida had already put those things in place. So we're actually in a really good place to take our in-person classes and switch them to an online format. So once we transition that successfully, what Stephanie's talking about now is with social distancing that could be in effect for the fall, how can we use the tools that we put in place as far as the online instruction, but also the students who do need more hands-on, or they need something like a format like this, like how do we do hybrid? How do we do video classes? And that is all stuff that's coming down. And like Stephanie said, that communication and those type of courses will be coming out from the State College of Florida by probably June. But that is what's being looked at. You just want to make sure that there's a continuity plan in place at the college to ensure that they can continue to deliver the course material.
Thank you. That's very helpful. One of the questions that we've received as well is about an application to nursing school, a nursing program, and how long should a student wait before trying to enroll?
To which program and which is she referring to? Is it a specific program or just in general? Because it depends. So in
Okay.
general, she said in general, when you apply for a nursing program, and let me just give you an example because I think, again, at SCF, they have a different admissions process than they would do at USF. So at USF, it's called a limited access program that we have in nursing, where you have to meet certain prerequisites before you can actually be admitted into the nursing program. So basically you have 2 years of prerequisites, then you apply to the nursing program, and it's your junior and your senior year where you'll be actually in the nursing program at USF. So there are deadlines. I don't know specifically what the deadlines are for applying to the College of Nursing, but I know that you can be admitted as a pre-nursing student with us if you come in as a first time in college and start completing the prerequisites to our program and then apply to the nursing program. I know at STF it's a little different.
I can speak on that as well. We have the RN program and then the BSN program. The RN program is 3 years total. So it'll be your first year doing your prereqs, and then you apply just like Gabriella was saying to the nursing program. Once you're done with your prereqs, it's a limited access program. And then it's 2 years in the clinicals. And then you could do from that another 2 years to get your BSN.
Rebecca, did you want to add anything from the high school perspective?
No, she's on. Rebecca, you're on mute.
Sorry, I just lost some connection there, so I didn't hear what was happening. I apologize.
I was just saying, did you want to, they were talking about the nursing program. They both gave from the college perspective. I said, did you want to share anything from the high school perspective?
I lost audio, so I missed this question. I'm sorry. Concerning the nursing program.
Yes. You
All right,
want to go ahead. It was if you wanted to add anything to the conversation based from the high school perspective.
She may not be able to hear us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Would any of the other student success advisors have a perspective on this they might be able to offer us? Okay, well, let me ask this question of the student success advisors. What other issues or commonly asked questions are you finding coming up in your interaction with students relative to financial aid or admissions?
Most of my students that I'm hearing from right now are very concerned about bright futures and getting their hours. We actually, I have a couple of kids who needed to take either the SAT or the ACT in the summer. And because of COVID-19, the tests were either canceled, and now there's a concern as to whether or not they're going to be able to meet the deadline for the testing requirement for bright. Biggest question is that going to be extended?
I can answer that. I went to the Department of Education website for the Florida Department of Education for Bright Futures, and they actually have a little ticker right there in the front that tells you that information. And it tells you that, yes, they understand that there were some standardized tests that were not, they were not being given. And so they're making some concessions, but they haven't said it yet, okay? So that's another thing that's coming down the pipeline, and they're working on it. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be something that they're going to be coming out to address those issues. They just haven't. And the reason for that is one change can affect many other things. So they have to actually evaluate, you know, what are these changes and how is it going to affect other things around the entire program.
Thank you. Any other commonly asked questions or concerns?
I actually have another one. I've also had quite a few parents ask me and students, you know, why they have to fill out the FFAA if they've already done the FAFSA. So that's a question that I've heard. To which I've told them you have to do the FAFSA because it's federal and the FFAA because it's state. But they are asking that question.
And you can answer this because the Bright Futures is a merit-based scholarship. It's based on their GPA and SAT scores. The FAFSA is going to be your need-based financial aid. So it's two separate applications, and that's the reason why. Because when you file a FAFSA, you're actually applying for a lot of different financial aid, not just one thing. You're actually applying for federal Pell Grants, you're applying for federal student loans, you're applying for even some scholarships require that you have a FAFSA. As Andrea mentioned earlier, there's two types of scholarships, the need-based scholarships and the merit-based. The merit-based are going to be the ones that get awarded out of the admissions office. So those are the ones that once you submit an application to any school for their admissions, they're going to consider you automatically for those merit-based scholarships. Now, there's the need-based scholarships, which typically come from the foundation of the university. And what happens with that is they're going to need to have a FAFSA on file to evaluate your eligibility for those need-based scholarships that the university offers. And then there's the other outside scholarships, which I know Andrea mentioned some, but you can also look at your main foundations around this area, which is the Community Foundation of Sarasota. They have a ton of scholarships. The Suncoast Community Foundation and the Selby Foundation is a huge organization and foundation for scholarships. So those are the ones that you're going to also want to look at when you start applying and submitting a FAFSA application, because they require a FAFSA. Like I said, the merit-based, not so much. Some scholarships are both. They're need-based and merit. So you need to have the FAFSA and you need to have that separate application.
Good. Okay. Any other questions? Concerns or things to be on the lookout for? Any other insights from the panelists that you would, you know, if you could help any of your students incoming or going, you know, graduating from high school, anything that you would want to make sure that they were well aware of and attending to?
I would just reiterate, fill out the FAFSA. That applies you for so many different types of financial aid. And you're not required, this is a misconception that I'm hearing a lot lately. You are not required to take out a student loan. It just gives you the opportunity to apply for the federal aid, decide what works for you to fund your education, but it also opens up those other opportunities that myself and Gabriella have talked about as far as the need-based scholarships that are out there. If it's need-based, it will require a FAFSA. And just because you may not qualify for a Pell Grant doesn't mean there aren't other types of free resources out there for you that you could qualify for. So fill out the FAFSA.
Great. Okay. Tracy asked the question, if we have any other questions later, how can we contact you through the Education Foundation? I don't know, Thomas, if you want to take that one.
Yes, you can reach out to us depending if students, you can reach out to us through the Student Success Center. You could also reach out to us through the Launch Your Plan website, or just as you simply said, you can call the Education Foundation. My name is Thomas Williams. You could also reach out to Suzanne Burke is on the call. Dr. Burke is on the call today also. And between the two of us, we'll get back to you. If this is Tracy, if it's student related directly, you can also see Catherine Dudek, Rebecca, or Jenna. I think Jenna got off a little earlier, and we can reach back to you that way also. So either any of those methods.
Got it. Thank you. I don't know, Thomas, unless there's any other questions, we may have been able to answer everything here for this evening. Oh, wait, there's one that just came in. Haven't the scholarships already ended? Most scholarships I have found are past their deadline.
It depends on the scholarship. A lot of times the ones that you will see, if they're corporate, yes, they will put a hard deadline on that. And unfortunately, some of those were before the current COVID-19 epidemic. So some of those may be passed, but I've seen some that they've gone ahead and they've actually posted on their website that they've extended it. But if you're looking for scholarships at particular institutions like SCF and USF, I know that our foundation, we normally have a much earlier deadline. I believe it's like mid-April. It's been extended to the end of June this year. So they are out there. It just comes down to who is the donor and what have they done. I wish I could give you a better answer to that, but scholarships are all individualized, and it comes down to who's controlling it and what their requirements are as far as a deadline.
Yes, I would say the same thing. One of the most important things regarding financial aid and scholarships is that you have to apply early, and you have to apply by the priority deadlines. Every school has what they call priority deadlines, and they want you to submit a FAFSA before those to be considered for all the free money available to you and based on your eligibility. For USF, our priority deadline is January 1st of every year for you to submit a FAFSA. And let me explain why submitting a FAFSA early is actually very beneficial to you. One of the things that if you qualify for the federal Pell Grant, you actually also qualify for a Florida, well, in the state of Florida, you also qualify for the Florida Student Assistant Grant, and you would also qualify for an institutional grant called the USF grant. So very important that you meet deadlines, because if you meet the deadline, you most likely will get more free money than if you don't meet the deadlines. And that's just very, very simple. Get on your FAFSA every year, October 1st. That is the first day that you can submit the FAFSA for the next year. Write that down. October 1st of every year, you need to submit the new FAFSA for the following year. So that's almost 9 months in advance that you're submitting a FAFSA. And the money that is free is first come, first serve. So you want to submit your FAFSA early in the year prior, actually.
Okay. A question that's been raised here is, what if your student hasn't decided where to go, but he has applied for FAFSA? What would happen to funds once they're approved?
Institutions are only allowed to disperse aid once a student begins seat time. So if your child does not attend an institution, the aid would just sit there. If they went back for the spring, like Gabrielle and myself were saying, we award for fall, spring, and summer off of this coming FAFSA. So the money would be there available for the spring. It's always a good idea, though, to reach out if you've accepted enrollment at multiple institutions until you have a chance to look at your overall award packages. Reach out to that institution at that financial aid office and let them know that you're not going to be going there. So that way they can cancel any aid that might have been awarded. So it'll make the transition smoother at the other institutions. So there's no overlapping approvals. But you don't lose it. Your eligibility, you would just have to apply again for the next year.
And I think, and the comment here is, and if the FAFSA application was not completed from October, then you need to resubmit this October.
So what happens is you can submit the FAFSA anytime between October 1st and June of 2020 for the current year. You have almost a whole year to submit a FAFSA for that year. So it doesn't mean that if you don't submit it on October 1st, you can't submit it ever again. You can submit it throughout the year. October 1st is just the first day that you can submit it to the federal government. But if you want to submit it, you will have to submit it again the following October for the following year.
Okay. Good. Thank you for that. Any other questions or insights? It is, like as somebody said in the beginning, it's I think it was Gabrielle, it's not complicated, but it can be difficult. So we want to make sure that we can answer any questions or concerns you might have.
Jean, any more questions? Feel good? Okay. Ashton, any questions? Feeling good? McKaylee? Lynn, any questions? Okay. Kelly? Sounds good. All right, and this is good. And Nelly. Did I say that right? Did I pronounce you right? And Nelly? Any questions? Okay.
Can I say something else as well?
Please.
Yeah.
If you need help at any point during the process, just reach out to any financial aid office. They can help you and they can assist you complete the application, walk you through the process. And I do want to say something about the changing circumstances, because there's going to be a lot of changing circumstances after this pandemic. And you can submit a changing circumstances anytime. However, when you submit your FAFSA, you will submit it with the correct information. When you submit the FAFSA, it's going to ask you for the prior year income information, okay? So you will have to submit it with the correct information. When that FAFSA reaches the school that you're going to, then you can submit the change in circumstances or the professional judgment forms to that school, okay? So make sure that you understand that, because when you submit your FAFSA, you still have to submit it with the correct information for the year that they're asking you. Yes, you can say, okay, 2018, I made $100,000, but in 2019, I'm not making that. So when you submit it, you're going to submit it with information from 2018. And then when we do the changing circumstances and correct the information to what currently you have, then we reevaluate your eligibility at that point. So go ahead and submit the FAFSA correctly with the correct information. Then we reevaluate it with the lower figures that you have for the for any year after that. That's all. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I had a question that I see, Ashton, you've asked as well. Given the work environment that we're in, if you've had trouble connecting with the financial aid office, Gabrielle, as you've suggested, because the schools are closed and everyone's remote, is there any suggestions you might have in that regard, or what are your institutions using as a means by which to get questions to you while you're working remotely?
in financial aid at SCF, we're kind of doing a 3-tiered approach. We have texting. We have our website. There's a chat bot if you have generic questions that could be answered. If our chat bot cannot answer the question, it will take your question and submit it off in an email to a financial aid representative to return information. And there's also the call center. So if you call the financial aid number, it will ring to a call center and you will be able to speak to a live individual. And if they have to escalate it, it can be sent to a financial aid professional to return a call or follow up with an email or text or a video chat like we're doing here. So even though we're not in the office, the services have not shut down.
At USF is basically the same. One of the things that I would like to add is that Zoom and Microsoft Teams are the best as well. You can actually call me when I'm at home, and you can call me through Teams or Zoom, and I can answer your questions as well that way, because we cannot see you face to face, but we're able to, you're able to make appointments on Microsoft Teams or Zoom so that I can talk to you. I can call you at that time and reach you and talk to you, person to person via video. But we also have, for continuing students, we actually have something called ServiceNow, where you log in to email your individual advisor, or we have FinAid, which it's a general box as well that you can ask questions as well. We just recently started answering phones, and for that we have to come into the office. So I've been doing that now for a week, and we're going to do that for the for the remainder of the time, depending on when we're completely open or if we open, because that's up in the air as well. But yes, if you're having a problem reaching anyone in the Office of Financial Aid, you can actually just call me at this point, and I can either help you myself, or I can find someone that could help, because believe me, I get a lot of questions, not only financial aid questions.
Thank you. I think you've already provided your number, which is amazing. So thank you for that. Okay. Well, I think we've answered a lot of questions here tonight. I want to thank the panelists, Andrea, Stephanie, and Gabrielle, for your time and your expertise and your insight, as well as the folks from the Education Foundation and all the insights that have been interjected throughout our discussion here this evening. I hope we found it very, very helpful. And again, if you need any further assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to the folks that have offered that here this evening, as well as those on the Education Foundation that have provided their email addresses and whatnot in the chat box. So unless there's any other questions, I think, Thomas, we are concluded.
Thanks, everybody. Great job, Sue.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.